Good evening, everyone. Today, we have a special guest with us, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State and Democratic presidential candidate. Thank you for joining us, Hillary.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start by looking back at your 2016 presidential campaign. Many people still wonder what factors contributed to your loss in that election. What do you believe were the main reasons for your unsuccessful attempt?
Well, there were certainly a variety of factors that played into the outcome of the 2016 election. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that I take full responsibility for the campaign and its results. That being said, I think a combination of factors came together to create a challenging environment.
Can you elaborate on some of those factors?
Absolutely. One major challenge was the perception that I was part of the political establishment and disconnected from the concerns of everyday Americans. This was exacerbated by controversies surrounding my use of a private email server while Secretary of State. It created an impression of secrecy that eroded trust.
Speaking of trust, many people saw your opponent, Donald Trump, as an outsider who would drain the swamp. Do you think that message resonated with voters?
Yes, it's true that Donald Trump positioned himself as an outsider who would shake up Washington. He tapped into the frustration that many people felt with the political establishment. And unfortunately, while his approach and style were unconventional, it was clear that this message resonated with a significant portion of the electorate.
Your campaign also faced criticism for not paying enough attention to certain swing states. How do you respond to those claims?
Well, it's true that we face challenges in understanding and addressing the concerns of voters in key swing states. Our campaign strategy might not have adequately addressed the economic anxieties that many Americans were experiencing. I believe this was a factor in our performance in those critical states.
Your campaign also faced backlash for not adequately addressing issues related to working-class voters.
That's a valid point. In the aftermath of the election, it became clear that we needed to do a better job of connecting with working-class voters and acknowledging their concerns. Economic disparities and the loss of manufacturing jobs were central issues that affected many communities, and we should have done more to address those concerns.
The role of social media in the 2016 election has been widely discussed. Do you believe that the spread of misinformation on platforms like Facebook played a significant role in the outcome?
But of course, I think it's evident that the spread of misinformation and fake news certainly posed a challenge during the campaign. Social media platforms amplified divisive narratives and sometimes outright falsehoods. While it's difficult to quantify the exact impact, it's clear that misinformation had the potential to influence public opinion and contribute to a more polarized environment.
Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in your campaign?
Considering that eventually the campaign was unsuccessful, of course there must be some room for reflection and self-criticism. I would have focused more on addressing the concerns of working-class voters and highlighting our economic plans to create jobs and opportunities. Additionally, I would have been more proactive in directly countering misinformation and false narratives that were being spread about me. But one also can't deny that the 2016 was a very atypical year in many levels, and the presidential election took place at a time the United States and the West in general were facing an unprecedented level of political and cultural turmoil. My campaign had to face tactics and methods that we were unfamiliar with at the time, especially with social media. And it was the first time social media platforms were used for political purposes in a way that hadn't been seen before. But the present only happens now, and we have to work with what we know and God, and we can't travel back in time to fix what we could have done better. Because, as we know, things turned out to be very different in 2021, perhaps because then the Democratic Party already had the experience with dealing with these new tools, tactics, and online mechanisms to influence the vote. But that's life, and we just have to keep working and look into the future by learning from our past mistakes.
Thank you. As we conclude this interview, do you have any final thoughts?
I want to express my gratitude to the millions of Americans who supported me during that campaign. While the outcome wasn't what we had hoped for, the democratic process is essential to our nation, and I remain committed to the issues that matter most to our citizens. And again, thank you again for having me. It's been an important conversation, and I hope that we can all continue to learn and grow from these experiences. Thank you.